Well, even as we're trying to put logistics together to get our guests to join us for the Ghana IMF $3 billion loan deal, let us discuss this, which has to do with young Nigerians and their ability to survive, looking at the issue of job, unemployment, and the likes. Now, when you look at unemployment, underemployment, and unemployment, these are major challenges that are said to be facing millions of young Africans across the continent. And in Africa's most populous country, the conversation surrounding employment is a never-ending one. For many, Nigeria's population, especially its youth population, is seen as something to take advantage of for the country's economic development and growth. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. It feels that if Nigeria fails to take advantage of its young population and in a timely manner, those numbers could be numbers that may doom the country. Now, in this week's Career Hub, we look at Jobberman Nigeria's latest report that focuses on how young people are surviving without jobs. And so joining me in the studio is Olamide Adeyeye, Monitoring, Evaluation and Research Lead at Jobberman Nigeria. Thank you so much, Olamide, for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
For the purpose of this report, what is the Nigerian young person in this report? Who is the Nigerian young person, and what is that report actually talking about?
Okay, so thank you so much. The Nigerian young person is, the average young person you find on the street. This person is that person you find, in a Danfo bus in Lagos or in Bodija market in Ibadan, just that average young person, primarily between the age of 18 to 35, at the point of, trying to transition into economic opportunities to be meaningful both to himself or herself, as well as society at large. So that average young person is, just myself and yourself, and generally young people on the streets of Nigeria. And, speaking to what the report talks about, it's primarily trying to understand what happens, for many young people, particularly in the period where I could describe as, the period of widowhood. That's a period between maybe one employment opportunity and another, or the period between school and work. A lot of times we see many interventions, many conversations around young people, the need for them to get into jobs, the need for them to get into employment. But a lot of times there is no intentional, understanding of what happens to them, even in that period and in that cycle. And like I always say, the conversation around unemployment is something that it's a revolving cycle. So while people are moving from unemployment into employment, there is a constant, existence of that loop where people who are currently being employed are probably falling back into the loop of unemployment, or those who are, leaving school are getting into that dynamics. So the purpose of the report was really to uncover and understand what informs what constitutes and informs the survival strategies of many of these young people, considering that job would have been the legitimate way or means of getting financial and material resources to thrive and to meet their basic needs. So basically, that report was aimed at understanding what it means and how they are surviving, even in the periods when they don't have jobs.
All right, Olamide, when you talk about employment, underemployment, and of course unemployment, who is actually to be blamed in Nigeria? Would you say the government? Would you say those who actually go through the education period and are not or do not have that certain qualities that is needed for them to land the kind of jobs that they're looking for? Or you would blame it on the corporate institutions that actually raise high standards for the kind of people they want to recruit for the jobs that they have?
So I would say, generally in the world, there are several factors that contribute to unemployment and underemployment. And Nigeria is particularly a very interesting country, and even Africa as a continent is very interesting because Africa's and Nigeria's population is largely a youthful one. Currently, 75% of our population, have people below the age of 35. And that already shows us that, there is a crop of young people who would need to enter into the labor market. And this is quite different compared to many other continents of the world. So when you think about it, there is already a huge, supply of labor, if you would say, a huge supply of labor in terms of a lot of people, vibrant, full of energy, full of skill, full of understanding, and are willing, and able to get it and engage economic opportunities or economic activities. However, we also understand the infrastructural deficits that we have as a country, the global recession that is currently plaguing, even the world, the several economic factors that are affecting, how work structures are defined at the moment. And therefore, the conversation around employment and underemployment is really a mix of, it's a combination of multiple factors where, both private organizations, public sector organizations, as well as even individuals, have different responsibilities across that spectrum. So it's really a mixed bag. And that's why many times it's labeled as a wicked problem, because it's not something that with a silver bullet you're going to address and everything is over. It's a combination of very systemic and structural issues, and it's really not labeling it on any individual per se.
So then if you have 65% of the Nigerian population constituting of youths, employable youths, working age youths, and they are not in the formal employment sector. So where are they and what are they actually doing to make ends meet?
Interesting. So, when it comes to employment in Nigeria, again, we know the unemployment rate according to the MBS statistics that was released in 2020 says that, just about 33% of young people, or just about 33% of Nigeria's population is unemployed. However, a whole lot of things have happened between 2020 and now. COVID happened, we've gone through several economic reforms and, recessions, and, a lot of things have happened in the world. So when you think about it from that perspective, it shows us why, that number is definitely, is likely very representative of what is happening at the moment. In terms of, what is responsible for this, it's primarily understanding that, young people require platforms and systems, to express their agency. When 65% of young people agreeing that they are not engaged in work opportunities, is actually obvious, and is clear that the formal sector, which accounts for just about 10% of employment opportunities in Nigeria, are not able to absorb, the amount of the flux. Like I mentioned earlier, the population that we have of young people is really enormous. So we have a large number of those young people playing in the sector called the informal sector, and this informal sector is really characterized by, lack of, structures, unregulated. It's unregulated, and because of that, it reduces the potential for its sustainability and scale. So many of our young people who actually are working are really not engaged in structured and formalized systems of employment. And this has, very huge impact on what we see around, the poverty rate in the country. So you find a lot of people working, and you see their take home cannot actually take them home, because yes, they are expending energy, they are engaging in economic activities, but the returns and the dividends of that process is not necessarily translating into a life that is sustainable, as well as a life that they desire to live, and is a mismatch between the aspiration and what they really want to and the reality of what they are getting in the workforce.
Is the issue of the gender aspect of what we're discussing, which has to do with the female folk not finding enough space to get jobs, and of course to be fruitful, and of course to be professional in this kind of endeavors that we're talking about. But then what has your finding in your report, what has it reviewed in relation to young Nigerian women? What did you find? What are the factors surrounding that? Why is it that women are not given that much opportunity that they desire to also perform in the field?
Also, so speaking to the report, one of the things that we found was, while we say a lot of young people in Nigeria are unemployed, many times, they are constantly engaging in activities to, alleviate their present condition and their predicament. So you see, they are not employed, but they are engaging in, things. As a matter of fact, 56% of them attested that they survived through hustling. And what does hustling mean here? We even have it as a balance in this part of the world where we say, hustle and all of that. So they basically are engaging in economic activities that are very unsustainable, just petty trading and all of those things. Now, while that is representative of the country's, general survival strategy, we found out that when it comes to women, women are more likely to depend on others, for their survival compared to men. There could be several factors for this. We found out that a lot of women attested to depending on their partners, depending on their parents for stipends, to meet their basic amenities such as food, internet, clothing, transportation and all. While for men, in many instances, you find out that they are probably engaging in some of these activities in different forms just to ensure that they are doing well and they are living the life that they want to live. But more importantly is that we also see some other expressions, amongst men different from women, things around betting. A man is more likely, across the regions of Nigeria to get involved in betting. I'm sure that the betting industry today in Nigeria has become so big, many thanks to many young people in Nigeria and the unemployment, that has fueled the engagement in that, in that activity. So really, when it comes to the gender dynamics as it relates to survival, we find out that men are more likely to, fend for themselves, while women are more likely to, depend on safety structures for their survival.
All right, so that what is actually the economic and development consequences for Nigeria looking at this report now, even as we wrap up?
Okay, so this has huge implications because just leaning back on your intro, when it comes to Nigeria's wealth or Nigeria's most prized resources has moved from being oil or from being petroleum resources and all to becoming its demographic dynamics. In global conversations in the world today, you find out that young people from Africa, young people from Nigeria are a major pivotal to such discourse. And if we do not harness that agency and direct it towards economic development and transformation, we have a tendency to find those agencies expressed in ways that can hamper the peaceful coexistence of people in Nigeria. For instance, when you think about even the dynamics of this unemployment, we found out that majority of about 60% of youths who are unemployed in the Northeast have actually been unemployed for more than 3 years. Now that has implications, and it shows a direct correlation between even the insecurity in that part of the country and what we find in other parts of the country. So what currently constitutes an opportunity for us in terms of the economic dividends that young people could provide for us could be, a time bomb if we don't pay attention to harnessing, the skills, the tools, and the hearts of young people to drive economic transformation within the country.
All right, so finally now, looking at stakeholders, talking about the governments, the corporate organizations, and of course even the youth involved, what can they do in their own capacity? I know you've talked about various stuff that can be done, but then looking at course now for these stakeholders in the discourse, what can they also do within their own means to ensure that those who are unemployed have the opportunity to get employed irrespective of their gender, and those who do not have the quality or the requisites to get employed, what do you think they can also do so that they can have a leeway in terms of getting jobs for themselves as a means of getting a bit of livelihood?
Absolutely. This is very, very important. One would have assumed that part of the reasons why people are not employed or are not employable is because they've probably not gone through school, or they are, unskilled in terms of technical skills and all. But on the contrary, we find out that, the unemployment rate among skilled, labor is actually higher compared to unemployed rates amongst unskilled labor. It means that, beyond the skills, there is a need for, there are other requirements to be meaningfully, engaged, in work. And this brings the importance of, things around soft skills, relationship building, negotiation, communication, and all of these things are, part of the message and the work that we do at Jobberman. Just ensuring that young people are able to learn and upskill themselves to be better positioned to secure job opportunities. In terms of organizations, I think that there's a need to further consider diversity in their their work structures and in their in the way they organize their human resource. Because again, research has proven over and over that diversity improves productivity within organizations, and including and creating opportunities and systems that support women's absorption into the workforce will be really transformative for even the organization and the nation at large.
All right, thank you so much, Olamide, for joining us on Business Edge. But I tell you that there's a lot that needs to be done to cater for the youthful population of Nigeria if we are hoping to have a future that is economically dynamic, and youths who have the strength and agility to transform the economy. If they have something worthwhile to do, but then, of course, we'll have a growth in all spheres of our economy. All right, let's quickly go on a break now. When we return, we'll be getting into our next conversation on Business Edge. Do stay with us.